In this episode of the Business of E-commerce, I talk with Logan Christopher about sending marketing emails every day without annoying your email list. This is the Business of E-commerce, episode 95. Welcome to the Business of E-commerce, the show that helps e-commerce retailers start, launch, and grow their e-commerce business. I'm your host, Charles Plesky, and I'm here today with Logan Christopher. Logan is the co-founder of Lost Empire Herbs, an e-commerce company that is dedicated to bringing the superheroes of the herbal world into the lives of humans and help assist health and performance. I want to talk today with Logan about how he sends emails every day and how you can too, but without annoying your email list. So hey Logan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome to have you on the show. I was definitely interested. I was checking out your bio before the show and kind of talking about how you got into this. And before you were in e-commerce, you said you were doing info marketing.
Yes, that's correct.
So how did that work? And what was that kind of like and kind of moving from the info marketing world to the e-commerce world? Just because we were talking before the show, and I feel like the, bleeding edge of marketing, it always kind of is always done in the info marketing world. And then over months and even years, it moves to e-commerce and SaaS and even just the rest of the world. And it takes years to move over. But if you kind of follow that world, it always seems like they're on the cutting edge. So where did you get
Right.
started there and how did that kind of work?
Yeah, so I've been in internet marketing for a long time, and really, I mean, it's called digital marketing now, but back, 20 years ago when this was like just getting started, it was a very wild west type of thing going on, and just weird people were on the internet trying to sell stuff on there. But now it's definitely mainstream. Everyone does it, right? It's
Yeah,
such
it became a lot more normal, right? Where
yeah,
before, it was,
yeah.
like you said, it was literally just like this. Like when people were doing it, you're like, "Is this a scam?" I don't know. But now this
Right.
became like just a way businesses
This
market.
is normal,
Yeah, this
right?
is just what people do now.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I kind of started out as a personal trainer as I got into fitness myself, and I was trying to find clients locally and everything. But I was also studying these guys. I was like learning information about body weight training and kettlebells and all of that through like Dragon Door, Matt Fury, some early guys that were out there buying their books, videos, going to certifications, workshops, all that. So I was digesting a whole lot of information marketing. And I thought, well, they're doing it. Why can't I? So I ended up republishing some old public domain books where the copyright had expired, and then eventually started creating my own courses, books and videos, all sorts of stuff, doing coaching online. So I just kind of naturally got into doing information marketing. It just really suited me. And then from there, as I was getting into strength training, and I do some very odd things from juggling kettlebells around, including on 2 occasions I've lit them on fire before doing that. I bent horseshoes, ripped decks of cards in half. So I was looking for an edge in being able to be stronger because I'm not naturally so. And that led me deep down health and nutrition, and that eventually led to herbalism. I started with some different herbs like the cordyceps fungus, and seeing an impact in my workouts just from taking this thing. So I got really excited about these. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was taking them for myself, but one of my older brothers, he got really interested in one of the herbs, and he's like, "Hey, can we like create a business, throw a website up there and start selling this stuff? If I find a supplier, you create the website, let's do this." So I was like, "Sure, let's do it." So it was from that information-based marketing. I was already doing stuff online, the email marketing we're going to be talking about today, and all that. Yeah, just took that from one business and started applying it in another realm.
Very cool. So then, how long ago did you actually launch the e-commerce site?
2012 was our official beginning.
Okay, so then using kind of what you kind of learned in the marketing world, you kind of brought that to e-commerce, and now are you currently sending emails every single day to your
Pretty
email list?
close. Yeah, pretty close to it. So I still do have both businesses, the info marketing business. I think I kind of keep it to the week, so usually 5 emails a week there. And then with the e-commerce business, completely different email list. And we're sending, well, if you look at the segments and then weekly emails, we're probably actually sending like 8 or 9 emails a week. But sometimes there are some days off in there. So yeah, pretty much daily.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
I am very curious. First of all, yeah, I mean, the two questions, right, are how do you do that without pissing everyone off? And then second, how do you come up with enough content to actually put in every single one of those emails? Because those are kind of the two biggest things.
Right. Yeah. And
Usually,
those are very good questions.
yeah, right. Because usually, hey, we put these products on sale or whatever, some new products, but you can't do that every day. And very quickly, you start running out of interesting things to say. And
Right.
yeah,
If you were just saying like, hey, there's a sale on this item, hey, there's a sale on that item, if you did that every day, yeah, that would annoy people.
yep,
So one thing to note is that this model does not necessarily work for every single business, right? Certain items I wouldn't recommend emailing every single day necessarily, but for us it works really well. So with our herbs, we're talking about health and performance. Those are pretty broad categories of things. There's a lot we can talk about there. So even if we just focused on the herbs, we could talk about a single scientific study. We could share, and we do all this stuff, review from a customer and what that means. We could talk about other like lifestyle subjects or diet stuff that is related to health, but not necessarily talking about the herbs themselves. So there really is a unlimited amount of stuff that can be talked about. Just for instance, today I was earlier before this call writing an article on sex hormone binding globulin. Most people listening to this probably haven't heard of that unless they've done some blood panels and comprehensive ones of that. But we do a lot with hormone health. A lot of our herbs are around that. So doing a deep dive article on this subject that our customers are really going to want to hear from if they have been looking at this hormone themselves.
how do you come up with a topic like that? Because I mean, I get it, you're in the industry, so like it's a little more obvious, but like to even come up with a topic itself every single day, like how would you even go about that process?
Right. So topics come from all sorts of different places. One thing to keep in mind is it's kind of like a practice. So I've been doing this for just about over 10 years now. So it's really easy for me to come up with topics. I can sit down and I do journaling and meditation in the morning. And I was like, I need 10 new ideas of stuff to write, and the ideas will come to me. But some places people can look is one, if that science is involved, right? So I follow a couple sites where new studies will come up, and based off that study, if it has to do with the herb or just something on health, I'll kind of capture what the study is about, but then write my thoughts surrounding that. For the sex hormone binding globulin specifically, one of the things I did recently was I recently did my own blood panel, got measurement of everything. So I wrote an article about that, and from that topic, that one topic, there was a couple different issues like what is the role of estrogen for men? Let's go deeper on the sex hormone binding globulin because it's kind of unclear, and there's the way most people look at it, it's not actually accurate. There's much more going on there than DHT, which is a whole other hormone that's gotten a bad name, but it's actually very important. So from that one idea, it spawned several other ideas.
Okay, so I always think of the content in two different ways, right? There's like the evergreen content that it sounds like you're producing, but there's also the news content. So it's almost like and once you become a news site, that's a whole different beast, right? Now you're publishing every hour possibly, or whatever that is. Like, we're not talking about CNN here, and we can just article after article, but it's almost like you're using the news content to drive your evergreen content. Is that going to fit? Like to almost feed the evergreen?
Yeah, it's going to depend on the topic, but yeah, health stuff is kind of evergreen. Yeah, there may be certain trending and topical things or a new study that comes out. And if I say new study when it came out 5 years ago, not quite, it's not accurate, but it still can be relevant to the person. And I'll add some other things, just like stories or things that happen day to day. So I ended up with a client on the phone doing a coaching call with him, and he's sharing a story of his health really took a dramatic turn for the worse after he got a new truck. So how did this happen? It was actually the off-gassing chemicals in that new car smell. That's actually a horrible thing for you that you do not want to do because that's chemicals that are being released, and these can have endocrine disrupting effects. They can really mess with your hormone system as well as other systems in the body. So just from that call, I thought, oh, this would be a good topic. I can kind of tell a story like I did right here, and then write based off of that. So once you get in the habit of this, then it's actually quite easy to come up with ideas just once you're a little practiced at it.
So do you have a list of ideas you're kind of, coming up with ahead of time and then just sitting down every day and banging out like tomorrow's article? Or is this something you have a bunch of them queued up? Or what does the process actually look like for getting a batch of ideas, batch of articles? How does that work?
Yeah. Great question. So I like to use Trello. That's kind of organizational system that I use. So I'll use that, have different boards for different things. So there's like one board for legendary strength emails and articles. Then I have one board for the Lost Empire herbs stuff, and I'll just capture ideas on there. So if I'm cruising around, maybe I'm on Facebook and someone mentions a study is like, oh, that's a good, I'll throw that on there. Or if I have an idea, I'll just capture that idea then. And these are ongoing lists. So there's always more ideas than I have stuff or time to write them all. And sometimes, I'll have an idea and I'll want to write it right then. Other times an idea will hang out there for a year and I just don't get around to it. It's not exciting me a whole bunch, but that way I kind of capture the ideas. So if I need to write something, I can look at these boards and there's a whole bunch of ideas right there. Beyond that, how I actually do my writing is I usually batch things together. So typically on Mondays, I'll write the 5 emails for legendary strength for the following week. With Lost Empire Herbs, we actually have recently hired a copywriter, so I'm not the only one writing the emails right now, but a similar sort of thing. I'll try to focus on the content, whether that is an email or a blog post. I do some videos as well. I'll do those in chunks of time, and that works well. That's productive for me in doing it that way.
So you stick with like a 5-day batch, right? So Monday, and you try to just do the whole week all at once and want to kind of sit down?
Yep, typically something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes I'll get ahead. Then if I got vacation coming up, I actually just took a 3-week vacation to Europe. So I got emails ahead of time for that whole time. So I didn't actually slow down my email marketing at all during it. Just did a lot more work leading into that.
Yeah, well, if you can queue it up like that, even this podcast right now, this will come out, and when we're recording this, when it actually comes out, it's completely different dates, and I don't even know them sometimes. We're like quite a few ahead right now, and that helps because I think other folks.
It's better to be ahead than behind.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once you fall behind, it's hard to get back ahead, right? It's hard to kind of catch up. Once you start queuing enough up, you can, you see the queue kind of compressing and know, okay, I have to add a few more, and once it's a little, you have a few more in the can, you can relax a little bit. And it allows you to kind of step away and take a vacation or whatever and not have to say, I have to wake up today and, the email has to go out by 10 a.m. and you have to kind of crank it out today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the idea, too, of having that kind of well of ideas. Because that's the other thing when you go to, sometimes you need to sit down and write those 5 articles. The hardest part is switching gears, right, between the thinking of the article you're going to write and then actually the writing. They're almost 2 different processes, it seems like.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm really big on looking at habits. And for me, it's really easy because I've been doing this so long. Writer's block is really kind of a myth once you understand that like you were just saying, capture the ideas at a different time. If you just open up a screen and a blank Word document, it's like, okay, what am I going to write? That's not a good way to do it. I know I'm much more productive in the morning. So like in the AM, I can write. I'm not very good at writing in the PM. It's going to take longer and it's not going to be nearly as good. So I do my writing in the morning and I do other things, like I'll do calls like this in the PM. That seems to be a better time for doing such a thing. So really kind of understanding when you're productive, but then getting in the habits of doing it. So an idea may come at any time, like I said, in morning meditation or whatnot. I'll jot it down. Just as I'm going about my day, I may see something, I'll capture it, but then when it comes time to write, it's really easy because the idea's there. So I'm just straight into writing and flowing with it. Often with most of my emails, they're relatively short. You don't need to go super long on these things. So I can write the average email in less than 10 minutes. So doing a whole week's email does not take that long either.
When you say short, what are we talking kind of lengthwise?
It definitely is variable, but most of my emails are between, say, probably 200 and 600 words. But then there is longer stuff. So some of the articles, especially on Lost Empire, we have like 1,000, 2,000. I think there was an 11,000 word article, which is more of a book than just an article. But yeah, so we do some in-depth things there. And obviously that takes a lot longer. But the average email does not need to be very long. In fact, I'd say the most ways that people go through email, it's something that they can quickly go through. So if you have super long emails, some people may read them, but generally short and to the point seems to work.
Yeah, you guys email every once in a while, it's like a wall of text, and you just open it up and immediately close it. You get scared and run out of the room.
Yeah.
Then you see other ones that it's almost like a sentence per line. It's like triple spaced. You're like, I can do this. I can, I got this.
That is the thing. So definitely in writing the emails, the structure of it, having that white space just makes it feel more readable, and thus it is more readable. So yeah, I would definitely advise people that look at kind of best practices around that sort of thing. A block of text is just an immediate turn off.
Yeah, any other tips for that? Because I see people do this wrong all the time, and it's always like, how are people so off with this? And because I know when I receive an email, I know I don't. There's certain things I don't want to receive, I don't want to see, and it's surprising how many people send things like that. So, any kind of
Yeah.
best practices for that sort of thing?
Yeah, I would say that keep that in mind that yeah, the way people consume different media changes, and this is true for like social media too, right? Even there, it gets shorter and shorter what is generally consumed. But with emails, yeah, people are trying to get through it quickly. I know for myself personally, if there's like a longer article, I'll also save that on a different Trello board for a different time when I'm more of like okay, I'm going to digest and read through these articles or watch these longer videos that I want to get to, but I'm not going to do it in that moment. So yeah, I'd say keeping the emails on the shorter side is really good. There's different things you can look at as far as looking at the readability of it, like the grade level. In general, you want a lower level grade with the different content just so more people can consume it. Even if people are really smart, if you have really smart people on your list, they still appreciate having something be very readable rather than using a whole bunch of jargon that not everyone knows and all of that. So even though I'm doing like science research and whatnot, I'm always trying to aim for making it something that the average person out there can grasp quite easily.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on a vacation a couple weeks back, and someone let me borrow a book on it was on software and kind of architecture software and this and that. It's normally something I would read, but I just wasn't in that mode right then. So it was very hard to get my brain into, okay, let's consume something super technical right now. So the same person that, might want this super technical reading at one point, when you're on the bus on the way to work, you just want something light and you can't, sometimes you just aren't able to switch your brain into that mode right then. So that's a great point of even if you're writing to a more technical audience, you still have to kind of bring the grade level down just so they can they can consume it whenever they want and not when they're in that technical mode. I like that.
Yeah. And something else I'll mention is, and this came from the info marketing background, in that business, the legendary saying, like, I am the business. And there's certain reasons you don't necessarily want to be the business. But I'd say with email marketing, your email marketing is always going to be better if it is personable. If there's like a person, if you are writing it, not your company is writing it, right? So we all know the typical company speak, right? Like these are the things we want for you. And most people are going to be like, no one cares. But if I'm talking about like a personal story and then how that applies to you, we're relating on a deeper level. So I think making your emails really personable, even if you are building the business so that you can sell it off and all sorts of things, there's very good reasons to keep it on that personal level just for increasing that interaction because we're all humans and we all want to interact with humans, not nameless faceless corporations.
Yeah, one hybrid I've seen with this that I love the concept. Are you familiar with Mr. Money Mustache?
I've
The
heard of it but not too familiar with.
personal finance guy. Talks about saving, frugality, that sort of thing. And he has this weird blend that it's not him talking and it's not his company. It's this like avatar that kind of lives in between. I don't actually know his real name. But it's always you're talking to this Mr. Money Mustache guy. That's this fictional
Yeah.
character that he kind of made up, which I always
Yeah,
thought was a
we've
very
actually been
oh
trying something similar to that. So Lost Empire Herbs, I told you we brought on a copywriter. Earlier we had one, and sorry if this offends any of my customers that happen to be listening to this, but we did some emails that I was not personally writing. And the voice wasn't the same. Like it's really hard to get someone else's voice in doing that. So after just like a few times, we kind of scrapped that. But we had this idea of having a mascot for the company, the Herbal Yeti. So we started playing around with that, and many of our emails now come from the Herbal Yeti. So the copywriter writes those. If any emails I'm writing, it'll come personally from me. So we have a couple different characters involved, even though one's a real person, me. But also then, should we not be able to continue with that copywriter, right? Someone else comes and they're going to have a slightly different voice. Doesn't really matter because we're just using a mascot or someone, a figure for that. So that is a way you can kind of get around this. So any business where they don't want to be They're like, I am a private person, despite being the public face of the company and everything. But if you're not comfortable with that, then yeah, I think creating a character of this nature would be very useful way to go.
Yeah, and who's to say, you can't one day kill off the herbal yeti, and he might have some cousins and some family that can come on. So maybe there's a different copywriter that is the family of yetis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that way of doing it because it makes it feel like you're still talking to an individual, even though that individual is a fictional character. Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you reuse this email content anywhere else, or is like on a blog sort of thing, or Facebook, or is this strictly just emails? How does that work?
It depends. So yes, I definitely reuse things. Sometimes that same material may get reposted to Facebook, or maybe something starts as a Facebook post and then I'm reusing it as an email. Maybe it's edited and used in a slightly different way. Sometimes what's in the email that will also become a blog post. Sometimes it's just I have the blog post, but then it's a quick intro email that is pointing to that. Then also over time is like, oh, these emails really worked, or it's appropriate to use them again. Maybe I'm relaunching a product or have a discount or a similar sort of sale on a product. Let's just go instead of writing something fresh, especially since, new customers, or if you used an email 2 years ago, who's going to remember that email anyway? So that can all be reused once again. You don't want to overdo reusing things in these different ways, but definitely it's appropriate to leverage to kind of amplify that content out there and then appropriately reuse it from time to time.
Okay, so there's no hard and fast rule. So it's not like you have like you're auto publishing a blog. You're making decisions based on when it's appropriate every time.
Yeah, and it really depends on overall strategy and whatnot along with that.
How often do you publish on the blog or on Facebook or things like that? That's not at the same frequency, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's less than daily. Somewhere between like a weekly or a couple times a week, usually onto blogs, and then Facebook. I really haven't been like a great social media person. I'm starting to get into it more. It only took quite a long time since the advent of social media, but yeah, I'm starting to kind of find a flow and routine with doing that.
Wow. So if even when it was just you alone doing it twice a week or even once a week, that's impressive. I don't think many folks can handle that sort of cadence when it's just a one-man band. That's very impressive.
Yeah. Well, the thing to know, and maybe we should have talked about this earlier, is email marketing is still one of the very best sales channels you have. It is one of the best drivers for revenue. And if it's not, for anyone listening to this that has an e-commerce company, if it is not one of your best drivers for revenue, it's probably because you're not doing it well or not doing it enough. Because it's hard to sell directly on Facebook, depending on products and whatnot, hard to sell directly on social media, but email is still a great channel, even though it's somewhat old school. I mean, it's not direct mail or anything, but it's been around for a while. It still works really well. So it drives, for us, I think it's somewhere around a third of our revenue. It's our biggest sales channel.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear that quite a lot, actually. It's one of the biggest revenue generators and one of the best margins as well, because it's not like you're going out there buying, PPC.
Right, it's your list.
Yeah, it's your list. You can reuse it. You can grow it. It's your asset that you're building an asset.
Yeah, it's always easier to sell customers that you already have rather than find new customers, depending on the product. Once again, some products are one time, but in general, that is why you should be using email, and also even to prospects, people that have not become your customer yet. Email marketing is one of the best ways to convert them. For whatever reason, like it is just a channel in which people are likely to buy off of. Like a lot of people, they use Facebook all the time, but they've never bought a single thing off of there based off an ad or anything. But email, people buy off of email.
How do you make the connection though, right? Because so far we've talked about generating the information side of it, but how do you kind of flip it to the marketing side? And that article you're kind of referring to, how do you connect that to actually, hey, here's a product that I'm selling, and here's some information about it, but here's why you should go buy it. And like, when does the hook come in? How do you nicely do that? Because kind of what we said at the beginning, right? That if you every day are hitting up your list and saying, buy, you're going to get unsubscribes, right? Very quickly. But so you need to do that information and then just kind of very subtly push that in. Sometimes
subtly, sometimes more hardcore. So there's a range with that too. There's a time to send out emails like, hey, we got a 20% site-wide sale right now, go and buy stuff. Especially to your customers or even unconverted prospects, but hot ones, that's going to work really well. And we do that. So there's a difference between like these more promotional emails, which may be a sale or discount or free bonus, different things like that. And those can be very direct and to the point, versus more of our content stuff, whether it's a story or sharing a testimonial or just like information rich articles and whatnot. In those, so let me say this, I pretty much always am pitching something. Very seldomly do I send out an email which doesn't include some sort of mention to a product I have for sale.
Okay.
But it's not always hardcore or anything like that. It may be like a PS or just a casual mention of a product. So once again, going back to this article on sex hormone binding globulin, how do we tie that into it? So as I said, a lot of our herbs are focused around hormone health. That's kind of the biggest and best thing we're known for. So sex hormone binding globulin is a part of the hormone system, and there are some herbs that specifically may manipulate this thing. So you get all this information about it, and you want to increase sex hormone binding globulin or decrease it. Here are some herbs that may help. So this article is shaping up to be kind of like probably a 2,000-word article or so, and the talking about herbs may be 100 of those words, and down towards the bottom of it, but it's mentioned in there. And we know that we send an email out to people about a new article, they click over, and some people end up buying. That's just how email works for us.
What is the cadence like between the emails where you're kind of going directly in for the sale versus the more informational soft sell emails? Like how often can you do each?
It's a good question, and I wish I could give you exact ratios. We tend to have like huge sale events probably 3 times a year. Then we'll do flash sales or specific discounts on different products, probably monthly or so. So a lot of we kind of divide our emails into those promotional ones, then just regular emails, like maybe they're selling a product, but there's no specific promotion attached to it. Then are more like, hey, go over to the blog, we got this new stuff there. And of course, other segments on top of that. But I'd say it's probably 10-15% promotional emails, kind of the rest being more different levels of the informational stuff.
When you write the information ones, are you coming at it from here's an idea for an article, and then at the end you're saying which product should we market with that, or are you flipping it and saying here's the product I want to market?
Both ways.
Yeah,
so yeah,
work?
sometimes it'll be like, oh, I see this study that's just on some random health subject. Okay, how do I tie in some sort of product here? And you can get quite creative with this. It can be a fun challenge, like how do I tie this completely random thing into a product? But it absolutely can be done. And then if sometimes it's the other ways, like, okay, we know we want to promote this. Okay, what kind of content do we want to build around it? So it does go both ways there.
Okay, and you'll come up with a plan. So you're sitting down on a Monday morning, and how long? And you said about an hour, and you can kind of.
Yeah, I can do a batch of 5 emails in about an hour, give or take.
Wow, so you're sitting down at 8 a.m. on a Monday and coming up with, hey, what do we want to sell this week? And just within the first hour, basically come up with your entire content plan for the week at that point.
Yeah, so I'll give an example from earlier today as well. I'm launching a new health coaching program. And in that specifically, as part of the launch of it, one launch sequence. So every email for about a week or so, I'm talking about this one product. Other times it's like, because I have quite a few different things to sell, it'll be just random throughout the week. But in this, like, okay, here's like the first announcement email. Then I shot a couple videos to go. Here's content kind of about this program and how I structure things, how I think about health using systems thinking and all that. So here's some different stuff, sharing content about it, and then pitching is like, and then a close that's coming at the end. So that's kind of laid out the formula there. And since the videos took a bit longer than an hour to do because there's multiple parts, but then the emails, because it's pointing a video, those are super quick. Probably took me 3 minutes per email on those to write, because there's probably like 10 to 20 sentences in them, because it's saying like, here's what this video, open the email, here's what the video is about, go click over to see the email.
You're a machine. I am impressed. This is to do this code of cadence for 10 years. That is super. That's something I feel like you've definitely got your rhythm down, and it sounds like now you're kind of in this pattern, right?
Yeah,
Do you have
yeah. And as I said before, I've really looked at habits, and I enjoy writing. For me, lot of the writing that I do, so sex hormone binding globulin is like, okay, I want to understand more about this. The best way to learn something is to teach it. So let me dive into all the research. Let me get my grasp around this. I write this article. I know the subject much better than before. So I've been doing fitness and health a long time. So I've learned these subjects pretty well, which also gives me a strong foundation from which to be able to write. When I see one thing mentioned or a story, I immediately am thinking, oh, how could I turn this into an email? It becomes quite easy to do once that foundation of knowledge is built.
Well, that's the other part about the writer's block, because if you don't have that foundation, if you're, if I started trying to write about that, I would spend the first 2 hours just researching whatever that means, and it would take me hours just to even get the base of what should I be writing about right now. So I think there's something there, right? On you're writing about stuff that you know very, very well, so you don't have to sit there and do 2 hours worth of research to write a 100-word article.
Hmm.
And that's probably part of this too, right? Where you're writing about stuff in your own spare of knowledge at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing, right? So we're talking to business owners here. Hopefully, you are knowledgeable about your business,
So
right? So
that's a
how can
requirement. You need to actually know what you're talking about.
I should hope so, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, about shipping, right? How could you think about sending an email out about this interview and then tying it back into your business? So we can talk about, oh, so I'm sending out this email. I just did this great call about the email. And, email, what Logan was describing was that email is such a integral and automated part of his business, because we mostly I've been talking about broadcast stuff, but then there's campaign emails as well. And then another thing that needs to be really automated in your business is your shipping stuff. If you need help with that, come and check out our shipping services, that sort of thing. Obviously, you'd flesh that out, but you see how you can tie one thing that isn't really seemingly related into another.
Yeah, I like that. Do you ever get pushback though from your audience on like someone new signs up and they're like, I'm not ready for like this is just too much, or how do you handle that?
Yeah. Yeah, so absolutely. People unsubscribe, and some people think it's too much. One of the things we do at Lost Empire Herbs is everyone's familiar with the unsubscribe at the bottom of the email. Right above that, we have a line that says too many emails. I forget the exact words, but click here to switch over to our weekly digest version. So if some people do not like daily emails, even though that's what we want to send, so we give them this option instead of having them unsubscribe. And then for that weekly email, we just kind of curate the stuff from the previous week and pop that all into one place. So they get a lot less email marketing, which they're happy about, but we save the unsubscribe from happening there. And that doesn't take a whole lot more work on our part because all the stuff's already written. It just needs to be reformatted for this email.
Very cool. Okay, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then you almost have your two email lists, your daily and weekly lists,
Yeah.
and people, depending on what cadence they want, they can opt, out of one into the other sort of thing.
Yeah.
Very good
Yeah.
tip. Yeah, because I feel like that would be the first pushback on people would want to unsubscribe, but might actually want the content. So it kind of gives them almost best of both worlds of that part.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one thing. And I think actually our weekly list is quite significant at this part. It started as a small idea and was like, okay, but now it's, yeah, thousands of people that we have there. So those emails definitely do well because then it's also, there's usually some sort of promotion in there and then also content pieces as well.
Very cool. All right, I could keep hitting you with questions all day. I want to be respectful of your time. So if people want to sign up for the list, if they want to get on the email list or find out more about you, what can they do so?
Yeah, so legendarystrength.com. It's one of the websites, and you'll see just homepage right there, the email opt-in offer. Go ahead, sign up there, and then lostempireherbs.com, same sort of thing. Two different email lists, so you'll see plenty of examples of email that will help people out. Let me say this, like you don't need to necessarily just jump to daily email. I'd say for most businesses, a weekly email can be at least a good starting point to aim for. And you may not be able to batch out 5 emails in an hour like me, but you should be able to, if it takes 3 hours, doing a weekly email like that can definitely be worth it.
Yeah, it's like anything else, right? It's if you haven't gone to the gym in 10 years, you don't want to start sprinting day one. Just get a couple of months under your belt, and once you feel good, just start upping from there.
Yeah.
You want to kind of
Let me
build that
also
muscle.
say, I'm a writer. Like, I enjoy writing.
Yeah.
Not everyone does, and you shouldn't necessarily bang your head against the wall about stuff that you're not great at. You can hire people that are writers, or you can also like video or a podcast, these other methods of doing things. And yeah, I think email should go and then support those things. But if you come across better in a different way and it's easier for you, then start there and then kind of fit in the other pieces.
Awesome. Great advice. Thank you so much, Logan, for coming on today. It's great chatting.
Yeah, this was a good chat. Thank you.